People travel thousands of miles to visit me in Omaha. They walk into my office expecting to discover the secret to wealth. They expect to see banks of supercomputers. They expect to see complex algorithms flashing across dozens of screens. They expect to find a room filled with mathematical geniuses. Instead, they find an old man sitting at a simple wooden desk, reading a book. Almost always, they are disappointed. They want a complicated secret formula. But the secret to winning the game of life is not what they think it is. Let us talk about intelligence. Look around your life right now. You probably know someone who is incredibly smart. I mean, the kind of person who got perfect scores on their exams, the kind of person who attended an Ivy League university, the kind of person who can solve complex equations in their head. But look closer at their actual reality. Today, they are drowning in credit card debt. They are on their third marriage. They are constantly stressed, chronically anxious, and they spend 40 hours a week taking orders from a boss who barely passed high school. How does this happen? How does a certified genius end up becoming a slave to a paycheck, living a life of quiet desperation? It happens because society has sold you a massive lie. From the time you were a child, the system told you that your intelligence quotient, your IQ, was a golden ticket. They told you that the smartest person in the room always wins. I have been in this game for over 7 decades. I have seen brilliant men lose everything, and I have always said, investing is not a game where the guy with a 160 IQ beats the guy with 130 IQ. In fact, if you have an IQ of 160, do yourself a favor and sell 30 points to someone else. You simply do not need them. In the game of wealth, those extra points will probably kill you. To understand this brutal truth, you have to think of your brain like an automobile. Your intellect, your processing speed, your raw IQ, that is the horsepower of the engine. A certified genius has a roaring twin-turbo, 1,000 horsepower Ferrari engine under the hood. It is a beautiful machine, powerful, incredibly impressive to look at. But here's the physical reality. Horsepower is absolutely useless if you do not have a steering wheel, rationality, emotional discipline, and a strict operating system. That is your steering wheel. If you put a 1,000 horsepower engine into a car with a broken steering wheel and no brakes, you are not going to win the race. You are just going to crash into a solid brick wall, much faster and much harder than everyone else on the track. This is a tragic flaw of highly intelligent people. They lack a steering wheel, and worse, they use their massive brain power to rationalize terrible emotional decisions. Highly intelligent people hate simple rules. Simple offends their ego. They think, I am a genius. This cannot possibly be this simple. I must find the hidden complexity. So, they invent extremely complex mathematical models to justify buying into a ridiculous financial bubble. They overthink their careers until they are completely paralyzed by analysis. They use their massive vocabulary to win pointless, petty arguments with their spouse, burning their own relationships down just to prove they were right. Their intelligence becomes the exact weapon that destroys them. My partner, Charlie Munger, and I did not build the Berkshire Hathaway empire because we had the biggest engines. We built it because we had the best steering wheels. We never tried to be brilliant. We just woke up every single morning and tried to be a little less stupid than we were the day before. You can have a very average engine. You can have a simple, reliable 4-cylinder Ford engine. But if your steering wheel is perfectly aligned and you keep your eyes on the road and simply avoid driving off the cliff, you will eventually lap the Ferrari that crashed in the first mile. That is what this presentation is about. I am not going to teach you how to read a cash flow statement today. I am not going to give you a secret stock tip. Those are just temporary tools. Tools change, markets crash, technology shifts. But human nature, the biological hardware of fear, greed, and envy, never changes. Over my 90-plus years on this earth, I have codified a specific operating system. 5 foundational rules. These are the iron laws that kept me alive and compounding wealth when these so-called geniuses on Wall Street were losing their minds and going bankrupt overnight. I must warn you. Before we proceed, these 5 rules are incredibly simple to understand. A child could grasp them, but they are brutally hard to execute. They will require you to fight your own ego. They will require you to look like an absolute fool to your neighbors. They will require you to unlearn almost everything the system has taught you about getting ahead. If you are ready to stop drifting, if you are ready to grab the steering wheel and take control of your machine, pay close attention. Let us begin with rule number 1. Rule 1. The 20-slot punch card, the art of subtraction. Rule number 1. I call this the 20-slot punch card, or the art of absolute subtraction. We live in a world that completely glorifies busyness. Busyness has become a status symbol. If you ask someone how they're doing, they will puff out their chest and say, "Oh, I am so busy. I am working on 5 different businesses. I am learning 3 new languages. I am investing in real estate stocks and startups, all at the same time." They wear their exhaustion like a badge of honor. They think motion equals progress. But motion is not progress. A rocking chair has a lot of motion, but it never goes anywhere. It just burns energy. Most people operate under the false assumption that to get more out of life, you have to put more into life. They suffer from the disease of addition. They think success is about saying yes to every opportunity that comes across their desk. Let me tell you the difference between successful people and really successful people. Really successful people say no to almost everything. When I speak to college students, I always give them a specific thought experiment. I tell them to imagine that when they graduate, they are handed a lifetime punch card. This punch card only has 20 slots, 20 holes. Every time you make a financial investment or a major career decision, you punch a hole in the card. But here's the catch. Once you punch all 20 holes, your card is confiscated. You are absolutely forbidden from making any more major decisions for the rest of your life. Think about the psychological impact of that card. If you knew that you only had 20 bullets for your entire life, how would you behave? You would not swing at every pitch. You would not invest your hard-earned money into your brother-in-law's new restaurant just because it sounds kind of fun. You would not buy a highly speculative internet stock just because your neighbor told you about it at a barbecue. You would stop drifting. You would become incredibly patient. You would sit and wait, sometimes for years, studying, reading, and watching. You would wait for the absolute perfect fat pitch. And when that rare, life-changing opportunity finally arrives, you would punch one of your precious holes, and you would bet heavily. This is how Charlie Munger and I built Berkshire Hathaway. We did not make 10,000 brilliant decisions over a period of 50 years. The vast majority of our wealth came from maybe 10 or 12 truly great decisions. We just sat in a room reading books and saying no to 99% of the things that came across our desks. To master this rule, you have to understand a very cruel truth about human psychology. Bad ideas are not your biggest enemy. You are smart enough to avoid bad ideas. If someone asks you to put your life savings into a Ponzi scheme, your brain immediately recognizes a danger and you run away. Your biggest enemies are the good ideas, the project that is moderately profitable, the side hustle that is somewhat interesting, the social invitation that is mildly entertaining. These good ideas are dangerous because they are seductive. They are good enough to justify spending your time on them, but they are not great. And because they are not great, they will never give you exponential, life-altering returns. But they will do something terrible. They will drain your cognitive bandwidth, steal your focus, and leave you with absolutely no energy left for when the truly great idea finally appears. Every time you say yes to a good idea, you are silently murdering a great idea. You have a strictly limited amount of energy every day. If you take that energy and divide it among 20 different projects, you will move all 20 projects forward by 1 inch. You will remain invisible. But if you take that exact same amount of energy and pour all of it into just 2 projects, you will move them forward by a mile. If you take a magnifying glass and move around over a piece of paper, nothing happens. The paper just gets a little warm. But if you hold that magnifying glass perfectly still and focus the entire power of the sun onto one tiny microscopic, you will start a roaring fire. You must become a laser beam. Here is your assignment for rule number 1. You need to become a ruthless assassin of your own good ideas. Take a piece of paper and write down the top 25 things you want to achieve. Circle the top 5. Those 5 are your destiny. But the other 20 things on that list, they are not your secondary priorities. They are your enemies. These are the people you must avoid at all costs. Treat them as if they were toxic waste. Never grant them even a single second of your attention. Until you secure the top 5 priorities, you must perfect the skill of subtraction and guard your punch card as if your life depends on it. Rule 2. Conquering Mr. Market, emotional detachment. I call this principle defeating Mr. Market, which is essentially the vital need for emotional detachment. Let's begin with a biological truth. As a human, your wiring is fundamentally unsuited for wealth building. Your brain did not evolve to navigate modern financial systems. It evolved in the Stone Age. For tens of thousands of years, survival depended entirely on the herd. If you were walking to the jungle and your tribe suddenly took off in panic, you didn't pause to analyze the situation. You didn't consult a spreadsheet. You ran. Stopping to calculate probabilities meant certain death at the jaws of a predator. Fear and social conformity ensured the survival of your ancestors. Yet, in the modern pursuit of wealth, the opposite is true. The herd is almost always wrong. Following the crowd in financial markets guarantees mediocrity at best and often catastrophic loss. When I was young, my mentor, Benjamin Graham, taught me an analogy that rewired my thinking completely. It is by far the most profound lesson I have ever learned in business. He asked me to imagine that I owned a small portion of a business, partnered with someone we'll call Mr. Market. Mr. Market is a highly obliging partner. Every single day, without fail, he shows up and quotes a price at which he will either buy your share or sell you his. There's a catch. Mr. Market suffers from a severe, untreated psychological disorder. He is an extreme manic depressive. On certain days, he is euphoric, perceiving the world as nothing but sunshine and economic miracles. On these manic days, he fears you might buy him out and take his future profits, so he quotes an outrageously high price for your shares. Other days, Mr. Market is deeply depressed, seeing nothing but political turmoil, economic collapse, and disaster. On these dark days, terrified of the future, he just wants out. He offers his share to you at a fraction of its true worth. Herein lies the ultimate test of rationality. Mr. Market is not there to instruct you. He is there to serve you. His pocketbook represents opportunity, but his mood swings are not your guide. Most people allow Mr. Market to control their emotions. When he is euphoric and prices soar, they feel envy, watching neighbors grow wealthy, and rush to buy at the market peak. Conversely, when Mr. Market is depressed and panic reigns, they sell everything, locking in permanent losses. I follow a simple rule. Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. People love to print this motto on coffee mugs and posters. They may nod, believing they understand it, but they do not grasp the intense psychological pain required to act on it. To buy when others are fearful is physically agonizing. As the market crashes and anchors scream about systemic collapse, your stomach knots. Friend will call, pleading with you to sell. Your primitive brain will scream to flee with the herd. To step forward at precisely that moment demands becoming a cold, calculating machine. It requires total emotional detachment. You must construct a fortress around your mind. You must learn to view a plunging stock price not as a threat, but as a mathematical mispricing. Disconnect your ego, pride, and adrenaline from the flashing numbers on the screen. This explains why Charlie and I stayed in Omaha, Nebraska, deliberately far from Wall Street. We sought distance from the manic-depressive chaos, preferring a quiet room where we could focus solely on the intrinsic value of businesses. If you cannot manage your emotions, you'll be entirely detached from the crowd sentiment. Without emotional control, financial control is impossible. So, here is your task for rule number 2. The next time the market plunges in a wave of panic, turn off the television. Log out of all social media accounts. Do not follow the news. Instead, examine the balance sheet, scrutinize the cash flow, and calculate the intrinsic value. If the value is present and the price is absurdly low, act decisively. Step up and swing. If the value is absent, do nothing. Never allow a manic-depressive market partner to dictate your fate. Master your primitive brain, or it will master you. Rule number 3 I call the mathematics of survival, the margin of safety. Whenever people ask for my top investment advice, I give the same response. I have only 2 rules. Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. When I mention this, most people laugh, thinking it's a clever old man joke. They believe it is physically impossible never to lose money. I am not joking. This is a strict mathematical law of the universe. The biggest mistake highly intelligent people make is obsessing entirely with the upside. They calculate how much wealth they might gain, dream of yachts, mansions, and extravagance, but neglect the downside entirely. They never consider what occurs if they are wrong. Let me illustrate the brutal mathematics of loss. If you have $100,000 and lose 50%, you now possess $50,000. To return to your starting point, you do not make 50%. You must make 100%. You must work twice as hard, take twice the risk, lose 90%, and you must achieve 900% just to break even. This is the negative compounding effect of capital loss. Once trapped in a steep mathematical pit, escaping is nearly impossible. This is why Charlie and I dedicate our lives to avoiding stupidity rather than pursuing brilliance. In the late 1990s, a hedge fund managed by some of the planet's brightest minds existed. They employed multiple Nobel Prize winners in economics and were brilliant, but they leveraged enormous amounts of borrowed capital to amplify returns. They aimed to grow rich slightly faster. Then, an unforeseen global market event occurred. Their models failed. With massive debt, they imploded, losing billions, nearly toppling the global financial system. They risked what they had and what they needed to acquire what they did not need. Sheer madness. It's like Russian roulette. If a gun has 1 million chambers and only one bullet, and I am offered $1 million to pull the trigger, I decline. The upside of $1 million cannot outweigh the infinite downside of losing my life. A zero at the end of any multiplication renders the entire equation zero. Protect yourself from zeros. Do this by creating what Benjamin Graham called a margin of safety. Engineers building bridges, aware that a 10,000-pound truck will cross daily, do not construct bridges capable of holding only 10,000 pounds. Such a bridge would eventually fail. Instead, they build for 30,000 pounds. The extra 20,000 pounds is a margin of safety, protection against bad weather, aging, and heavy traffic. Build your financial and personal life the same way. If survival requires $5,000 a month, do not design a life dependent on precisely $5,000. One medical emergency or lost client could devastate you. Avoid borrowing to invest in risky ventures. Never stake your family home. Leave room for human error or misfortune and life's unpredictability. Constructing a massive margin of safety eliminates stress. You will sleep soundly each night, immune to the panic displayed on TV. Rule number 3's assignment. Conduct a stress test of your life. Examine debts, investments, monthly expenses. Are you driving a 10,000-pound truck over a bridge rated for 10,000 pounds? Are you a single misstep away from disaster? If yes, fix the bridge immediately. Reduce leverage. Build a cash reserve. Accept lower returns in exchange for absolute survival. The ultimate winner is not the fastest driver, but the one who never crashes. Rule number 4 addresses the undeniable force of human association, the gravity of the people you choose to surround yourself with. Society idolizes individual willpower, the myth of the lone wolf. Motivational speakers claim that hard work, constant learning, and inner strength can overcome toxic surroundings. Let me be clear. Willpower is a biological illusion. It functions like a cell phone battery, fully charged in the morning, depleted by mid-afternoon from traffic, decisions, and challenges. You may have zero willpower left, but your environment, those you associate with daily, is not a battery. It is a gravitational field. In that room, I did not learn how to value a stock. Rather, I learned how to organize my thoughts and express them clearly to other human beings. Let me show you the mathematical return on that $100 investment. It did not yield 10%. It did not yield 100%. It returned millions of percent across the span of my lifetime. If you cannot communicate, it is like winking at a girl in complete darkness. Nothing happens. You may have the greatest mind on earth. You may possess the cure for a devastating disease. But you cannot articulate your ideas. Your worth in the marketplace is essentially zero. If you simply master writing well and speaking with clarity, you will immediately boost your lifetime earning potential by 50%. It is the ultimate form of leverage. You channel the horsepower of your mind and connect it to the wheels of action. But this is only the beginning. You must transform your brain into a compounding engine. People constantly ask me for the secret to my success. They seek a magic formula. I typically point to the enormous stack of papers, annual reports, and books on my desk, and I tell them I read 500 pages like this every single day. Most will hear this and immediately invent an excuse. They will claim they lack the time. The harsh truth is they lack patience. They want a shortcut, a magic pill to become a genius overnight. Knowledge does not function that way. Knowledge accumulates, just like compound interest. When you read a book today and acquire a new mental model, it connects the lessons you learned 10 years ago, forming an entirely new web of understanding. Nobody can see this unfolding. It is invisible to the outside world. Yet, over decades, that slow, invisible accumulation of knowledge becomes an unstoppable intellectual force. Intensity is overrated. People love the fantasy of studying 20 hours straight, but intensity burns you out. Consistency is what matters most. Reading 20 pages a day may seem insignificant, but over 10 years, it results in hundreds of books, an empire of knowledge. Here is your assignment for rule number 5. Stop obsessing over the Federal Reserve. Stop checking your stock portfolio every 10 minutes. You cannot control the macroeconomic environment. Take that anxious energy and invest it in the only asset that guarantees a return, your communication skills. Read one book per week on psychology, history, or business. When the next economic crisis strikes and the masses panic, your bank account might temporarily shrink, but your intrinsic value will remain untouched. No one can ever tax your intellect. You will walk through the fire and emerge infinitely stronger. We have discussed the engine and the steering wheel. Conclusion: the rocking chair test, the true scorecard. We have examined the 20-slot punch card, market psychology, the margin of safety, the gravity of your environment, and the ultimate asset, your own mind. If you follow these 5 rules, wealth is almost inevitable. The mathematics of compounding virtually guarantee it. But before concluding, I must issue one final warning. I have lived over 90 years and earned more than I could spend in 1,000 lifetimes. My position has allowed me to meet some of the wealthiest and most powerful people on earth. I have seen men who own fleets of private jets, whose names are emblazoned on skyscrapers, who can call the President of the United States with a single phone call. Yet here is a dark truth about some of these men. When they reach the end of their lives, lie in a hospital bed, no one truly loves them. Their children wait for them to die to access their inheritance. Their spouses are present only for the wealth. Their business partners view them as stepping stones. They may have all the money in the world, but they are utterly bankrupt in the only currency that matters to me. That, my friends, is absolute failure. I do not care how many billions you hold. If you reach my age and the people you most want to love you do not, your life has been a disaster. I call this the rocking chair test. Imagine yourself at 95, rocking on your front porch, reflecting on the long arc of your life. You will not be thinking about your stock portfolio or your quarterly business earnings. You will not ponder that promotion you received at 40. You will think about people. Did you treat them well? Did you act with integrity? Did you build trust or burn bridges for an extra dollar? Money is a marvelous tool. It provides freedom, options, and relief from survival stress, but it cannot purchase love. You can buy a yacht, a mansion, or even the illusion of respect, but you cannot write a check for $1 million and buy genuine human affection. Love is earned by being lovable. As you roll your snowball into the world, remember the ultimate scorecard. Do not trade your reputation for a quick gain. Do not sacrifice your family for a promotion. Do not climb the ladder of success only to find it leans against the wrong wall. Play the game hard. Build wealth. But never forget that wealth is a byproduct of a life well lived. Take these 5 rules, embed them in your operating system, stop drifting, and take control of the steering wheel. That is all. Thanks for watching.